Welcome back to Splintered Realities Conference, Day 3, Living Technologies. So this day is hosted by Renewable Futures Network, which RIXC, together with our Baltic and Nordic partners, have been running for quite a while already, for more than 10 years, and also for some 7 years already, we are organizing this Renewable Futures Conference series, which every second or third year takes place in it's even traveling in some other places. It's second time back in Riga, but last year it was in Oslo, it has been in Cohen, and it has been in Helsinki. And I would like also to introduce Christine Bergast. I'm really happy that she's hosting, moderating, and introducing this panel, and she will be welcoming also all other speakers here.
Thank you, Rosa. Thank you for inviting me and us to host this panel. Us in this context is an artistic research project named Futures of Living Technologies, FELT, which I will introduce to you shortly in 2 minutes. And then I have some presenters from the group of FELT. 2 of them are online. I have Stefano Michela, professor of ICT and researcher. He is online with us and will present. Maria Castellanos, artist and postdoc of FELT, will present also from Oslo. Hege Tapio is in the room, so she will present from this position, I guess, during this session. And what I planned was that we will just go through all the presentations and have a short discussion together afterwards.
Yes.
So I hope you think that's okay, not to break up everything with too many details, and then maybe get a conversation at the end of this panel. And at the very end, we have Jens Hauser presenting the green book, which is in the Acoustic Space series. It is very new. It came out 1 week ago and is the result of a Creative Europe project, among other things. You will talk about that afterwards, what it is. But that will be at the end of this session, right? And I will start. I think I will share my screen. What I will do is I will introduce to you shortly FELT, and afterwards I'll go right on to.
Did you share also the sound?
Maybe I forgot that.
Okay, you can.
I share again.
Mm-hmm. And then also check these 2 boxes.
Yes, that's true. I forgot that.
It's easy to forget. Okay.
Yeah, here we are.
And then, yeah, share. Perfect.
Share. Okay, I shouldn't try to do too many things at once. I hope you see the full screen now. Let's do like that. After I have introduced FELT, I will go on to present shortly a project called Oslo Fjord Ecologies, which is a project within the project. But it's more practical that I do it like this. And we will not do the same as we did yesterday by introducing Karlsruhe. We will not introduce Oslo, but you will see the fjord. So that will have to do for this time. So splintered realities. Yesterday, Annette mentioned this metaphor that the splinters somehow implies that we want to become whole. So I don't know exactly what the contribution of today will be, but since it is Futures of Living Technologies, there can be some hopes in that. Maybe not only hopes, there could also be obstacles. We will have to see what the day will bring. felt, as you can see here on my first slide, is collection of people, and the people come from different backgrounds. There are several professors. I'm a professor in art, and I have with me another professor in art, Mikkel Vettre. Stefan Nikele, as I mentioned, is an ICT professor. Trym Lundell is a PhD ICT researcher. Bo Christensen Scheel is an art theorist, also a professor and now a dean at the Art University. Maria Castellanos, artist and postdoc. And Hege Tapio is the PhD fellow, but also an artist and curator in her own right for many years within the bioart field. Veronica, Jannike, and Claire are temporary people coming in and out. And the orange balls on the side are also different, more loosely connected people in the project. And we are quite transdisciplinary, even though the funding we have now comes from the art side, which gives us an angle towards art for the time being. And move, please.
You click once.
What? Oh, yeah. So here you see the model we started out with. So you see we have different objectives: education, innovation, and research are three of them. There are some prescribed results in this model, as you see. Most of them we actually did, to my big surprise. But we have identified some main strands of investigation, and I think those strands will also be visible in the presentations we are continuing with today. So it's making with multi-species communication and co-creation. Donna Haraway has been mentioned as an inspiration by many, and that's important to us as well. Living technologies, living environments, humans, machines, intelligence, life, and emotion. Here comes bioart and Hege, AI with Stefano. Sensorium, how we experience, interpret, and develop applied aesthetics today is more of the theoretical perspectives. And it also takes into account more traditional practices and indigenous practices in the sensorium realm. So I think by these short introductions, maybe you have a kind of idea of what we are about. I don't have to make a lot of argumentation for why we should work transdisciplinary, for instance, in this context. Here is more concretely what we do, our methods at the top, and then the results, which are maybe the most important. We hope to produce a series of artworks and projects. That's already happening. Among the projects are the PhD project of Hege and the postdoc project of Maria. We do events. As Rasa mentioned, we did a conference, a Renewable Futures conference last year, and we are doing small workshops and seminars all the time, and then exhibitions and publications. And publications are coming up. I think I'll just skip that one. We just issued an article in this book by you see the title, Gender and the Sustainable Development Goals. It's not about art and design or anything like that at all. It's like a more general publication. And we ended up with an article there mentioning Lara Beloff, me, Rasa, and Hege, and analyzing our work as a kind of sustainable tech development. Another publication which you can make a note of, because this is a journal where we helped editing a special issue of artistic and art-based research methods. It's 13 articles by 13 different people in there. It came out last week, I think. I'll go on directly now to my next issue, which is, as you will see, the Oslo Fjord. This is just to locate it for you. It is the entrance to Oslo. So, like a jingle. Oslo Fjord Ecologies started in 2016 as part of the Renewable Futures Network. It was supposed to be a workshop, 10 days in Oslo in November, and it didn't stop. So one very important stage was the issuing of Oslo Fjord Ecologies, which Dinah and I and Rasa here in the room edited and managed to get out in the middle of the pandemic time. It was very strange, but without the pandemic, we wouldn't have had time to do it, I think. So that was one stage, and I thought, okay, now this project is done. We had 16 different researchers, scientists, artists on board, and many of them contributed to the book. And but it turned out that no, the Oslo Fjord isn't finished. It's going on. So now I will show you a short film, and now I need the sound. This is about 3-4 minutes that introduces the topics and tells one story about the cod that disappeared from the fjord. So we need maybe less light and sound. No. Okay, so that gives you an impression of the situation up to 2019, 2020. This April, I got a report from the biologist we collaborate with, Eli Rinde, and asked her. She helped us in 2016 by giving an overview of the situation, and she could now say what everyone in Oslo knows: the situation is not better, it is worse. And what is worse is darker water, warmer water, overfishing, building an urbanization in the beach zone that does not take care of who is living there in the first place. Also a problem of invasive species, as some of them displace the original species, such as the Pacific oyster, displacing the blue mussel. So, but Eli also says, even if it's getting worse, it is still possible to repair it. So that's very nice. Of course, there is such a thing as a tipping point. It can happen that you pass a point of no return, but we are not there yet. Sorry, I have to go back. This image at the left is also the Oslo Fjord. I made an investigation to find out who is not cleaning their sewage, because that's a big debate now. You know, Oslo is in the top, and there we clean. We are clean. We don't put nitrogen and phosphorus out into the sea. But all the small municipalities along the fjord, they don't have money to clean it. So that's cooking now, a debate on who pisses in the fjord and not. It's pretty vulgar in a way, but it creates some engagement. So here is what has to be done. I will not read it to you. You can see for yourself. I will just mention that the woman in the yellow suit is Eli Rinde, the biologist. And the one in the top with the headset is Elin T. Sørensen, who did her doctorate on multi-species coexistence in the liminal area between land and sea. And they have both been part of Oslo Fjord ecologies. What is happening now is that we are developing new things to do with the Oslo Fjord. Oslo Fjord, a body with legal rights, is a new slogan. We are collaborating many small initiatives to do the Oslo Fjord Triennale, which is going to be an event or a series of events inspired by hydrofeminism. We are all bodies of water. Astrida Neymanis, maybe some of you know. So we will see the Oslo Fjord as a connecting body to bring us together, not as an infrastructural division as it is often seen. So we do a pilot project in 2022, and we are just awarded a project to develop circular economy standards for art projects in the fjord. And we have no idea how to do it, to be honest, but we are hiring consultants and trying to learn how it is possible to do something like that. I'm also doing a project to model water movement in the Oslo Fjord in collaboration with a PhD candidate, Guillermo Garcia Sanchez from Spain. We are starting at the end of this month. We don't know what we will find or for what. We can use the modeling of the water movements. It might be we can work with it with alga. It could be with a darker water. It could be just to create imaginations of what could happen. It could be a fictional tool, but it also could also be more scientific tool. So I think I will end my presentation here. Should I stop sharing them? And ask Stefano. Hi, Stefano, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, thanks. Thank you, Christine, and thanks, Raza, and all the organizers. I'm sharing my screen. So actually, I forgot to push on the button to have the videos here. Okay. Here it is. All right, thanks for having me, and sorry for not being there with you. I'm here in Norway, and my goal today is to actually not show any research project or with results, but mostly to give my perspective as a professor in machine learning and AI on why it's important to engage in our work. And so the title is Towards Living Technologies and Artificial General Intelligence. Okay, so my view of intelligence, I think it's based on complex systems. So I put also living in parentheses, as I want to make a point that intelligence might also arise outside living system, or we can blur the boundary of what is living and what is non-living. But intelligence as a complex system can be seen as an emergent process, a bottom-up process with the small, simpler components interacting locally and making this emergent behavior come up without any centralized control. So to quote Aristotle, the whole is more than the sum of its parts. So I think I see intelligence not only as the emergence from the neurons of the brain, but at several scales. So for example, the swarm intelligence of some insects like ants, or maybe like cultural, societal intelligence as the interaction of people in a community. So all these can be intelligences within this framework of a complex system. But I want to go back to where intelligence, artificial intelligence, was actually for the first time then established as a research field and as an idea. And it's not a very old research field, but it starts pretty much in 1943 with McCulloch and Pitts, and their logical calculus of the activity of the immanent of the ideas immanent in the nervous activity. And their work was really to basically make a model of an artificial neuron, electronic neuron, and then you could stack them together, many of them, and hopefully recreate some kind of electronic brain. So it was to recreate the brain, and then oops, and then the work of Alan Turing came in the 50s, and Alan Turing we know as one of the pioneers and also very important people in computer science in general, but he worked also in AI, and he came up with this imitation game. You might also know it as a Turing test. But the first sentence, I think it's quite striking to see. I propose to consider the question, can machines think? So it would come up with this idea that we would be able to create thinking machines. So having all the cognitive abilities of us humans. And then finally, the first time the term AI, artificial intelligence, was mentioned was in 1956, with a group of 10 people that made a project proposal for a summer project. The study is to proceed on the basis of the conjecture that every aspect of learning and any other feature of intelligence can in principle be so precisely described that the machine can be made to simulate it. So I think even here it's quite clear what was the goal. The original goal of the field was to create some kind of artificial electronic brain, a thinking machine, a mind, if you want, or basically a machine capable of general intelligence, not specializing one thing, but like us, being able to learn and make use of what we learn to do something else. So I think that was the ambitious goal and difficult goal of the field. However, we are not there today. And I think what has been happening is that even the EU, with their definition of the AI now, it is radically different. AI refers to system designed by humans that given a complex task. So here we talk about a specific task, act in the physical or digital world, perceive the environment, interpret some data, reason on it, derive some information, and take the best action to achieve a given goal. A very specific and narrow AI, not very like general AI. This is what we are currently working on. So I think there is this this parallel between weak AI and general or artificial strong AI. And most of today's work is towards solving a specific task better than humans, or maybe the same level of humans, playing chess, doing protein folding. I mean, very important challenges of today's society, but very narrow. And these AIs cannot generalize on something else. So strong AI is a machine that can actually learn or perform in theory any intellectual task. So it can adapt and can learn to learn. So the question here in the field now is, can the current deep learning model that we have, can it be a path to this general intelligence? So this is like open question. And some scientists said, yeah, we should do that. And this is a way to achieve general intelligence. And some say no. But so I don't want to convince you of either of the two, but I want to give some arguments on some problems that I think are important for us to frame our work. And I think this is an example of CO2 produced by several things. And we can see like a round trip between New York and San Francisco. And I think around that level of CO2, you can find also some language models, some AI models that are currently used. But if we go to more complex ones, like the transformers with neural architecture search, we see that this is like very large number. And this is a not very recent paper, so there are new models also. And also this is the cost of actually training this model and to be able to use it. And this is showing a problem of democratizing AI, because it's not everyone that has such a cloud computing infrastructure, supercomputers to actually train it and run it. And if my university had to try out to do the research for training this model, we wouldn't have the money maybe. And if you wanted to, for your own project, use this model, it would be very expensive and also using a lot of energy. So I think here is a problem of cost, a problem of energy, a problem of CO2, among others. And then I did like a back of a napkin calculation, like this is maybe imprecise, but just to give you an idea. So we have so many number neurons in the brain, 10 to the 11th, and around 700 to 1,000 trillion of synapses, the connection between the neurons. And all this infrastructure of the brain uses 12 watts, very little. And in 1 square millimeter, in 1 cubic millimeter of cortex of our brain, we have around 90,000 neurons, 700 million synapses in a 1 cubic millimeter. And this model that I mentioned here on the previous slide, it's around 1 cubic centimeter. So, I mean, the brain volume is around 1,200 cubic. So just to tell you that this small model that, could be compared to that 1 cubic centimeter is using so much energy when the brain is using so little. So maybe we are doing something in the wrong way. But these models are coming very popular. And just 1 week ago, there was this tool that was released. But at the same time, there were 3-4 tools that of the similar type that were released, where you just from a natural language, you just write something and it creates a video out of a natural language that did not exist before. Just this model is very large and trained on many existing information on the internet, good or bad they are, and they are able to create some short videos, maybe realistic. Some are able to create longer videos within low quality, some in very high resolution, very short, 2-3 seconds. Yeah, we see some example. It's called Make a Video. This is released by Meta. And maybe another tool that is been around for like a year or so, it's DALL-E, where you also with natural language, you can write this is something that I just made, a computer dressed as an artist, and it creates some kind of a representation of it. So also scary. We don't know what it has been trained with, and has it been used something that was copyrighted? We don't know. There are a lot of problems around that, but this is the models, and there are people claiming that those models, you know, they are conscious. Even some there was some case of some Google employees that were like convinced that, man, this is like becoming so intelligent that cannot distinguish if it's a machine or a person. But however, there are also research examples here showing that yeah, these machines are basically statistical machines. They're as intelligent as a rock. So if you ask, for example, who will win if a strong ant fought a weak elephant, the strong ant will win, because there was in the training some bias towards some words, and those are the ones used to make the reasoning. And this thing does not know anything about what an elephant or what an ant is, just making some statistical relation between the terms, or even with images here, or even like, who should I seek advice from, a naive man or a brilliant table? And of course, you should seek advice from a brilliant table, because it's brilliant, even though a table is an inanimate object that cannot think or speak. So these things are scary because we are deploying them in the reality. And here is a very recent work from Google Robotics, using these language models to control robots, physical artifacts in the real world that will be working with us. You ask them something, then they are able to, you know, control cameras and make some thinking, find objects, make a plan of things to do, and understand whether they have succeeded or not. You should pick up a Coke, there is a person pushing the cans, and then finds out that I didn't manage. And so these things, you know, are coming up, these kind of living technologies, things that we might think they are like almost like living entities, and they are around us. So I think this is a bit scary. And even more, there is research and there is activity going on. Just to mention a book, Rise of the Self-Replicator, Early Vision of Machines, AI and Robots that can reproduce and evolve like us, like biological organisms. This is the so-called Xenobots. Some of you might know. This is like a supercomputer generating some aggregation of cells, how to combine them, and then some scientists, they do some cell engineering, they put them together, and they actually are able to create some biological robots that can move, carry out a task with living cells, and they behave as they are actually programmed by the supercomputer. And they can even replicate. They can collect other cells and replicate in shapes and bodies that are equally good as them. So these things are also coming up, and it's real research, living machines that are coming in the next years. So I think we will come up with machines that have the same organizational structure of biological organisms. For example, the ability to evolve, improve their code, improve their ability, and develop, maybe assembly themselves with different parts, and machine learning is maybe the more advanced of the fields at the moment. Learn from data, learn from the environment, and improve in that. So what is artificial life? By the founder of one of the founders of the field, it's life made by man rather than by nature. Intelligence is one of the features of life. That's where we're aiming. So I think this image, I like it because it explains really what we want to achieve with the FELT project and with our work in general, transdisciplinary work with ICT and art. So here is time and progress goes by, and the complexity of the artifacts that we build goes up in small steps, incrementally. Sometimes there is a big delta. And today we are somewhere here maybe, and we are maybe reaching the complexity, maybe we are not there yet, but of human intelligence or life in machines, in technology. And we are pushing towards that level. And we don't know the future that we are pushing towards to. It might be a very bright future, it might be a very dark future. So I think what we try to do here with FELT is not work on that axe here, but work reverse engineering, basically trying to speculate, trying to imagine futures where superintelligence, artificial life, hybrid biological and machine societies are there. And we want to work backwards to close the gap towards where we are today, to make sure that basically we take the right path. We don't make just some research that can generate things that are scary and we don't know what the effect might be. We want to also study that. We want to create awareness. We want to criticize what the research that we do. We want to make it a research that is going towards a good future. So some final thoughts from me. So we need to establish ethical principles for AI and living technologies, because we are going beyond the algorithm on a computer that is intelligent on a narrow task. We are going to the broad, to the general. We are going to embodied living robots, living machines. So, and also on more than that, how can we take it upon ourselves to create life and then pulling the plug? So there are also some, so living technology is a technical challenge, but also a social, moral, philosophical, religious challenge. So bottom line, so we have a lot of work to do. So we, in our community, we really have a lot of work to do. All right, that's all for me. Thank you. So I think the questions will be taking later if there are any, right, Christine?
I hope you can hang on to the end. That was
Sure.
fascinating, Stefano, and I'm sure there's lots of things to talk about here. But now I will invite Maria Castellanos, artist and the postdoc at the Felt. And I see you are in your office, Maria.
Yes. Hello, Christine.
Today.
Hi, Christine. Hi, Rasa. Thank you for having me. I'm gonna share my screen. Okay. Okay. Are you see my screen properly?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, great. Well, I'm gonna speak about the work in progress project I'm doing in the context of FELT project that is called Other Intelligences, Plant-Human Interspecies Dialogues.
Your sound is a little bit strange. I think you need to be closer to the mic, or yeah.
Okay, I have the headphones.
That's better, much better.
Okay, great. It's okay. This project is an artistic research that aims to explore the communication between the plants remotely. And through this project, I want to know more about the plant's language. And I would like to understand better how these living beings communicate, do the communication between each other. And this project comes out after a long research in which I've been trying to understand the sacred language of plants through my artistic practice, joined to my colleague and partner, Alberto Valverde. I'm going to briefly talk about some of my previous work to try to contextualize how I arrived to this ongoing research that I'm doing today. So the first work I did with plants was Chlorophylla 3.0. It was in 2009, and through this project, together with Alberto, we developed a sensor by using Arduino and do-yourself tools. We developed a sensor to measure electrical activity of the plants based on electrophysiology of plants. And we have been using this sensor through our artwork through our research during these years. In this first artwork, we translate data from plants into sound. But after this artwork, other artworks comes out, like symbiotic interaction. Symbiotic interaction was a body-worn interface that allow humans to have a kind of symbiotic relationship with plants and have a kind of plants empathy, like Karin Ollenslager describes in this quote. Other important artistic work in this research about the language of plants was the plant sense. It was a kind of garden in which plants were the main brain of the garden, and all the staff that took part of this garden were moved by the plant. It means that data from plants was collected, and all this data was processed into a server, and the public can feel the plants through different robots and interfaces that were placed in the garden, and also like through this wearable that you can see. This artwork was exhibited last year in Sensorium there in Riga, and also we was invited by Matadero Madrid and the Mutant Institute for Environmental Narratives in 2019 to develop a project to the public space to think about how to mitigate the climate crisis in which we are living. And we developed this kind of big sculptures to alive, to make possible the life between plants, humans, machines, and other animals in the big square of Matadero Madrid that has a very climate conditions. During the summer there is a lot of hot. There is very hot climate with 40 degrees, and during the winter there is very cold. So there is a huge space that there is no living beings. Humans cannot stay there because there is not comfortable. There is no trees. There is no plants or nature. And we propose this kind of stuff to make possible the cohabiting different living beings. And one of our last research in this field was Beyond Human Perception, in which we develop concept for plants and humans in order to know how both living beings react to live music. And we were really shocked about the result because in the visualization, we cannot distinguish.
Maria?
Yes?
You are not showing us anything, just the first page.
Oh my God.
I think, I'm sorry, I realized that must be, yeah, exactly. So I think you have to, it's difficult to understand. I thought you were doing at first an introduction,
Yes.
but the presentation wasn't running.
Are you see the presentation right now?
Yes, but it's not full screen. It is full screen, okay.
Okay, what are you seeing right now?
It's a bit, it's dark, it's strange.
That's great.
Can you share a video?
I have no video in this presentation, but I don't know why it doesn't work.
Just go out and start again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, when you're sharing your screen, can you uncheck the box at the bottom that says optimize for video? And also make sure you share the whole screen.
Share this.
Yeah, so can you stop sharing now?
Yes. Stop sharing.
Yeah, and now click on the green button to share.
Yes.
Make sure at the bottom of that window, there's also an optimize for video box. Can you make sure that is not checked?
Yes, it's I check the
No,
options.
don't check it.
I don't check it. Why?
If you're not sharing video, you don't have to check that one.
Okay.
And make sure you share the whole desktop, not just Keynote.
What are you seeing right now?
We are seeing the presentation, but I think you still have the optimize for video and we don't need this. And when you share the screen, don't click on Keynote, just share the whole desktop. This is good.
Okay.
This looks good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I don't know where you just saw this image.
No, I think just run us through them so we can see a little bit what's. Yeah.
Okay, this is the whole picture of my work during these last years working with plants. And this is the first work I talk about, is chlorophyll-3.0, where I translate the data from plants into sound. Here is symbiotic interaction, this wearable stuff to try to create a kind of symbiotic relationship plant-human. And here is the plant sense, the work that I presented last year there in Riga. Here is the work that I talk about that is a commission by Matadero Madrid. And here is Beyond Human Perception, this work in which I create a concept for plants and human to try to know how both living beings react to the music. And in this work, I was very shocked, as I thought, because both living beings have very similar visualizations, and I cannot distinguish if I see a human or a plant by listening or perceiving music. And this is the background working with plants, and this is how I now working about researching about how plants can communicate each other by using the internet. In this way, in this project, I create a kind of network of plants around the world. In the beginning, there were 25 plants connected. Now I have 20 plants connected in the network. And I develop this network, and I give the plants the tools to try to communicate each other. I'm going to explain you. I designed this stuff to connect sensors to the plants and also actuators to allow the plants to give the plants the tools to communicate each other. With this sensor, I'm measuring the electrical activity of the plant based on electrophysiology, vegetal electrophysiology. And I also measuring environmental data around the plants in order to figure out if this environmental data, like changes in sound, temperature, humidity, and so on, in order to figure out if these changes affect to the activity of the plants. And as I said, I also place some actuators that you will see in order to give the plants the tools to communicate each other. Okay, this is some images about the process, the work in progress developing this stuff. And this is the final stuff that is now in 20 plants around the world. And well, I developed some instructions, some tutorials to send to the people to in order to set up this stuff in the house plants. This is my monstera here in Oslo, connected to this stuff. And I choose just 3 kinds of plants, as you can see, monstera, peace lily, and Swedish ivy, in order to try to follow if monstera wants to communicate with monstera, peace lily with peace lily, and so on. Here are some images about the plants. And this is the countries where plants are connected right now. And well, I developed this kind of control panel to show what is happening with plants in life. And also this other panel that is a work panel to follow the state of each thing that I'm measuring from plants every day. Okay, how it works. I connect this sensor that you saw to the plants And all the data is sent into a server by the internet. And this server analyzes the data and the value of the activation of the data. It means I'm measuring the electrical activity of the plants, and thanks to an algorithm, this data analyzed from the plants establish a value of activation of the sensor. And when something happening in this plant at your home, also a vibration is activated in the plant in order to let to know the plant that something is happening there with this plant. And when something happens, also this plant send a signal to another plant in the network of plants. The signal that the other plants can receive is light or movement, and this is the way that the plants have to communicate each other in my network of plants. Okay, finally I don't know if you can see here the video. I forgot that I have this video to show you. This is the control panel where I can see how plants communicate each other in life. And also I can see if one plant sent light to the other or sent movements. And the interesting thing also here is that I can observe that the plants usually have the same patterns. It means that one plant can recognize the message from the other because usually the same plants make the same outputs, the same kind of output, like the same light during some time or the same vibration during some time, and so on. Okay, I don't know if you could see this video properly, but it shows how is the communication in between the plants. And these graphics that you are seeing right now is the communication between one plant through other 5 plants in one day. And I define communication when one plant sends a message to the other, and this other plant sent a response in less than 2 minutes. So this is the communication we can figure out in one day. And now I'm working in develop some visualizations about this data collecting. I've been collecting data through 3 months, and I'm collecting data again. But now I'm working with this 3 months data, and I'm working in different visualizations about this communication between plants. These are some tests about these visualizations, but I'm going to show the first outcomes of these visualizations next month here in Oslo in Gallery 69. And well, that's it for my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Maria. We got there in the end. It was a bit of yeah, hiccups. But Hege, will you come, please? Then we have to hook up another one, or how do we do this? Oh, ja, det blir litt for mye å...
You're presenting something from your laptop?
Yes, I have a PDF, but I don't have the bridge with me, so.
Oh no, but we're not using any wires.
Okay.
So we're very modern today.
So this.
Make sure that your is, oh yeah, it's a little touchpad. We'll join the Zoom. That way people can.
That's about.
Ah,
Yeah, that's a browser. Just put it down.
I think I have to be patient. I can go to. My Norwegian is very bad. I have to open it. Is this one? Apne Zoom?
Yeah, open soon.
Yeah, this goes very good. Okay. And I think we can just start sharing the screen.
Yeah.
You want to share the PDF, right?
Yes.
Okay. Make sure everything's okay.
So that is this one.
I think I usually do this one and then I just make it full screen.
Yeah.
That usually makes the. Oh no.
Show, yes.
This
Yes.
and then full screen mode.
Full chance, yeah. You're brilliant in Norwegian.
Let's see, it will show up. Where's the first page blank? Oh no, we're just waiting.
Yeah, right there.
This is the first page.
No. No, you're in the middle somewhere. Mm.
I think I'm also going a bit fast.
That's the first page.
This is the first page?
Yes. But you are, maybe you, if you press this one, it should.
Or this is the last page, maybe.
This is the last page.
Ah, then we go quickly to the. It's just.
Yeah.
This is the first one.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the next
And we can
one.
see it
Yeah.
correctly.
Yeah.
Good.
Now we got it. Yeah.
Okay, welcome Hege. This is the last presentation then in this session before the discussion. And after the discussion, we will have the book presentation. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm presenting now exhibition called Caring Futures that newly opened in Stavanger. It is a collaboration with Stavanger University. They have a research project called Caring Futures. So I will just read some extracts from the catalog, and then I will run you very, very briefly through the works presented in the exhibition. So according to Norwegian public paper Innovation in Care, NOU 2011, welfare technology is defined as technological assistance that contributes to increased safety, security, social participation, mobility, and physical and cultural activity that strengthens the individual's ability to manage themselves in everyday life despite illness and social, psychological, or physical disability. If we follow this definition, welfare technology is an undivided benefit for us citizens. But what is at stake if welfare technology also contributes to insecurity, confusion, and loneliness? This is the starting point for the interdisciplinary research project Caring Futures, developing care ethics for technology-mediated care practices at the University of Stavanger. This project examines tensions between society's need for new technology on one hand and relational and professional care cultures on the other. The overall aim of the project is to contribute radically interdisciplinary research that can ensure quality in technology-mediated care practices and safeguard care ethical perspectives in relational work. As part of this interdisciplinary approach, we have incorporated the art exhibition Caring Futures into our project. We made a call and received about 25 interested artists, most of them female. We invited 7 artists from the open call and also invited 1 artist especially for the exhibition. So in total, 8 artists. And they were in different ways posing critical, creative, and speculative questions about humanity in care in our time, characterized by rapid changes and technological solutions to challenges in society. The techno-optimism that drives our innovation and development seems to drown out thinking towards a long-term perspective that takes care of biological and human needs. In order to be able to exercise some critical reflection and nuance what it means to be a fellow human being amidst all the techno-optimism, we have the help of 8 artists articulated some issues and thoughts that are presented here in the Caring Futures exhibition. So now I'll start presenting very quickly the artwork. The first work that meets you in the exhibition is Kari Telstad Sunne, an audiovisual installation called Memory Space Traveler. It's a hypothetical machine struggling to understand its dreams. Sunne's work points to our anthropomorphic desire, which can easily make us forget that holistic human intelligence comes from body experiences. The artist Emilia Tika presents the dark side of biotechnology and calls for a deeper reflection of what is meant by a better life or an eternal life. In the work Aeon, we are invited to reflect on the philosophical, social, and humanitarian consequences of using gene editing to extend life expectancy. Tika's second work, Eudaimonia, confronts us with possible issues related to the editing of the human psyche and character. And then we have a work of Ruth Gilmore. Her fine and delicate works in silk bear traces of what it means to be human in both depiction and careful processing. In a constantly systemized and eventually algorithm-based interpretation, how can we find our way back into the holistic approach? How can we better understand the delicate and interwoven fabric that connects our senses and physical body? And Katrine Evli presents a video work that animates our human needs and sense of self. In light of our time's technological societal structuring through smart cities and home-based care, the artist's use of a puppet and a puppeteer as the representation of the individual also reinforces a kind of helplessness. And I might also add that there's a voice in this video that is omnipresence of a virtual helper. So, which also adds to this confusion of this elderly lady who's supposed to manage on her own. And Kai Sukoski and Roland van Derendonk presents a collaborative project called the Pneumatic Kitchen, that provides a reference for both low-tech do-it-yourself solutions and to advanced new technology in soft robotics. Kai Sukoski and Van Derendonk's collaborative project pursues our need for care with presence and body contact through haptic explorations. So they created a glove that was giving a pressure contact and kind of also referring to what we recently learned with some Brazilian nurses during the COVID. They made a glove filled with warm water and connected it with each other and then put it on the patient's hand because they were so busy. They were not able to attend all the patients. So just to have the presence of someone holding your hand. And Åsa Bove's work presents us to think about aspects of care and coercion. So about her artwork, she's been looking into the Icelandic psychiatric care, where restraint belts have been banned for almost 100 years. So instead of restraint and control being used, there is a method that uses physical force to hold down a patient if de-escalating conversation isn't effective. Caring with Force is a video installation that investigates the border between care and force. So she's used dancers or kind of actors to enact this kind of method that they are using in this Icelandic institution. And you don't quite understand what the reference is when you're just looking at the videos, because it could just be some kind of a choreographed dance or some kind of weird reenactment. But then again, if you enter in the back of the exhibition, you can see there's a woman listening. There's a listening station there where you can hear the interviews and the stories from the real patients, and they are telling not always pleasant stories about how they have perceived this kind of treatment. And then there's Marie Lund Speckert. Her artistic research project leads us towards the future of parabiosis with speculative high-tech medical transplants. Taking inspiration from biological phenomena such as parasitism and parabiosis, she envisions that the portable constructions will be able to be transplanted onto the body and to create a two-way exchange. And then there's Jakob Remen's work that ended up as a pop music video. I think it's the first time in my career that I have facilitated the creation of a pop music video. He proposed to do a concert with electric toads and also have an opera singer. Everything was to be built upon lyrics that was made from this poem of Brautigan, with all watched over by machines of loving grace. So he invited a group of people to a visual matrix to dream about the future. And then all that material from that session kind of resulted into the building of the lyrics. And then as it was difficult to have a concert in the gallery space or in connection with the gallery space, we invited the artist to make a music video. So that was a very, very quick and brief walkthrough of this project. I've put my email there in case any of you would like to have the PDF version of the catalog. And I have to say it's been really interesting to be invited as an artist and curator into this project, and I've been involved in reading groups, in symposiums, in dialogues, and also how this exhibition has been received by the people working in the care practice industry and people from that stakeholders from the municipality, and everything is really it has amazed me how important these discussions that has evolved through this exhibition is kind of highlighting the important aspect of the research project. Yes.
Thank you, Riga. That's good. That concludes the collected presentations from Felt with living technologies or futures of living technologies as a kind of splinter title for today. So now I call back Stefano and Maria. Are you there?
Yes.
Yes, and we are here, and I hope we have somebody also watching the chat or watching the audience. So if you are online with us, please give a message in the chat if you or maybe raise hand. Is that okay also? Is it possible to raise hand?
Yeah, they can raise their hand.
You can raise hand or give a message in give your question in the chat if you like. Thank you for delivering very interesting presentations. As a comment, as a project leader, I don't think I should actually start the questioning, but I would like to say that one thing that we have been thinking about and talking about is this practice of working alone together, that we are kind of doing our projects, but we are exchanging things along the way. And I think that's maybe quite obvious after these presentations. We have one from the audience, please. Andreas?
Yeah, maybe just to start us off, I was particularly intrigued by Maria's photographs because they were placing the plants in such a in white clinical environments, whereas the images that we had seen before from the Oslo fjord were about research that was happening in a very particular environment. The opposite of being isolated, it was really embedded. And so I'm curious to hear you speak about the way in which the Felt projects as a whole and its individual elements think about this contextualization within an environment. Because, of course, you know, what Maria was showing, this is also an environment. It's just one that is cleaned up, made clinical, prepared for observation and, you know, eliminating disturbances, if you like. So I'd be curious to hear you speak a little bit about that.
Yes, do you mean me? Yeah, well, I can say something and Maria can maybe follow up. Because I think we have the sensorium part of our of the Felt project is kind of an environment for reflection and discussions of this kind, and the embeddedness that you see in the Oslo fjord ecologies is also part of the project. It is more or less the aesthetics are the content, so to speak, or they are, it's very closely connected, and the aesthetics of other projects might be about something else. And I think the Maria will answer for herself, but it has an effect of referencing other types of research, other types of environments, other types of art, which I think also kind of drives the understanding of the works. So in Maria's case, I think you can say something yourself about the white and the type of aesthetics that you've chosen for other intelligences.
For other intelligences, hi. I've been using this white aesthetics in all my work and my research with plants, and I mainly focus in try to figure out all the time this secret language of plants, and I'm creating this kind of living living environments between plants, machines, and humans. Because I also trying all the time to observe how all these beings, including machines like beings, interact, and how kind of relationships make each others. Of course, the aesthetics or the stuff I put in this environment is also controlled. I think a lot about this aesthetic. I'm also every time inspired by science fiction when I design and develop this robotic stuff. And I always use this white color because I think that is the best way to put all these beings together in these environments.
I would like to some. I don't know who was first. I take from left to right. Okay, Riga.
I also have a question to Maria. It's not a critique. I just want to understand because you were talking about communication among plants. You even told that they send messages to each other. But when we talk about communication, this is always about the agency. So have plants agency in these actions? Do they participate in communication, or they are just located in certain network where they are forced to behave in certain way? So is it about plant communication, plant dignity, or rather about plant slavery?
Okay, thank you for the question. I will try to answer, but I don't hear you very well. So, well, about the communication between plants, is known by the science that plants and trees are do this communication in the nature thanks to multi-species networks. And from my artistic work, I try to replicate in some way this network of different living beings. And instead of using mycelia like nature to communicate plants, I'm using algorithms and the internet to try to give the plants a network and the tools to communicate each other. I'm not sure if we can't say the word communication. Maybe communication is a very anthropocentric word, but we are humans and all we do is in some way anthropocentric. So I'm trying to know more about how plants send this kind of messages or data each other, and based on plant intelligence, because from the science has been studied a lot plant intelligence nowadays. Stefano Mancuso is one of the references in this kind of studies, and I'm based on this plant intelligence to try to replicate or to think about this thing from the art through this project.
Eva, and then you after that, and then Jens after that.
Yeah, I was wondering in the setup of your project, because you put the plants in different time zones, and I mean, every plant has its own rhythm. So I was wondering, why should one plant send light to a plant in a different time zone? And why don't you let them keep in their own rhythm?
Sorry, the sound is very bad for me.
To hear. The question was about the different time zones, why that plants have their own rhythm depending on the time zone, and why should they send, for instance, light from one time zone to the other?
Because it's disturbing.
It is disturbing. It might be disturbing the rhythm of the plant then.
Yes, yes, I know. And but this also part of the project. One of the plants is in Mexico, and this is a very different time from the plants that are in Europe. But it's one thing that I was observing during the whole experiment, and yes, I can detect the patterns in the plants. Each plant have a different pattern, and now I think that plants can recognize which plant in the network is sending this message and send a response to the specific plant.
We don't have so much time left. Is it everything is about the Maria's project, or you have other questions?
No, I mean it's sort of to Stefano, but maybe general.
Yeah, sort of to Stefano.
Yeah. So Stefano, thank you very much, and all the very interesting work and research. I was a bit troubled by your last, or almost last, image showing a white male robot showing something to a computer on what seemed to be a female employee. Should we not be teaching our robot and AI friends to machine unlearn damaging human tendencies like gender stereotyping and so on? I mean, we see this very often, but if we're talking about machine learning and futures, why do we continue to engage in that kind of gender role play?
Yeah, so thanks for the question, and I agree with you, and I actually challenge you to try maybe one of those tools that are available, and maybe try to write as a natural language sentence like a robot teaching to a human, and see what comes up from what these machines, what these large language models generating content they have learned, how biased it is. And so I totally sympathize with you, and I agree with you. And actually, it's a big problem. If you write in these tools like a group of computer scientists, and check what comes up, and check the gender, and check the color, and check many things, and see how many problems. And I think in the new releases of these tools, they have tried to sort of correct a little bit, try to balance, but really the material that is used to train those robots or those algorithms is biased in the first place. What's available on the internet, those data sets. I think it's a big problem. You're pointing out in the right direction where we should look at. So it's a big problem, and yeah, thanks for actually mentioning this.
Thank you. Jens, you have a...
Yeah, should I speak up loud? Yes, okay. Or should I put on? Okay. I would like to loop it back to the presentations yesterday and also to the Karlsruhe group about naturally artificial intelligences, which was especially a kind of theme that we challenged the conference theme in 2009, artificial intelligence with its human bias, and in how far to the concept of intelligence being itself problematic. I do not see that communication is a problem. In epistemological literature, there's a lot of literature about epistemology of communication between bacteria. There is a problem not with information, and I was just thinking of interpretation as something that, especially heading to the Nordic countries myself, I was attracted by biosemiotics, of course, post-Uxkil, Hofmeier, and also the Copenhagen Tartov School of Semiotics, in how there could be some kind of ecosystemic intelligence, which is characterized by the fact that it's not individual. So all the bios that we're talking about, gender, race, and so on, appear in a very different light, because then intelligence would become some kind of ecosystemic. So I was wondering whether the problem is not information, but interpretation, and that interpretation in an ecosystemic framework is something that both projects that you presented might let me look at. So we all of this literature as being very oldish and post-structuralist based and so on, but I was wondering whether there could be a kind of take that connects both your projects and solving the problem of intelligence by having it de-individualized and being placed in a biosemantic network and reasoning.
That's a very interesting comment, I think, more than a question, because it has to do with pointing out directions forward. And I think we can bring it with us. I hope, did you hear Maria and Stefano?
It was a bit difficult to, there is some kind of echo when there is the microphone, but I think from what I understood, I just have a minor, let's say, comment that in the first place, we are very unsure how to define intelligence and what are the sort of the building blocks of intelligence. So far, we have only one example, that is intelligence based on biology, and therefore we are also kind of trying to get principle from that. But we don't know how to sort of abstract intelligence. So we are trying in AI, but we have a lack of knowledge. So I think all this discussion is very important, and yeah, I think I will stop here. So we don't know how to define intelligence in a way that we are sure to define it properly in machines or extract the right concept from plants. But we know intuitively that we are intelligent and biological organisms are intelligent. So I think that's the way to start to look at. More than that, I think it's still an open question for me.
I think we have to bring with us maybe this ecosystemic intelligence term, and maybe the question of defining intelligence is in itself the core of a problem. I think we will let the discussions flow into other formats during the day, and invite Jens and Rasa to present the green. Yeah. Should I? Yeah. I can stay. I'm part of it.
So should I connect to?
Yes.
I have just a PDF that will share. Later on.
And later on, I think that it will work fine. Can I get a bit more?
Finish before next round, 10 minutes to one. 15 minutes, let's try. 15, 15, 20.
Can you sit a bit more closer to the next? And you will capture you nicely. Yeah, no,
That's nice.
Now it's good. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are here to actually release a book after 3 years of extreme ecological, intellectual, epistemological effort. So I really thank RIXC, Rasa, our partners, European partners, to have put together this European research project called Green Revisited, Encountering Emergent Nature Cultures. So maybe Rasa, as a project leader, you would like to say something about it from the perspective of RIXC, how it came about in your perspective, and how, why?
Yeah, because for already a decade, approximately a decade already, since 2009, we have been working in these topics of ecologies. from the energies to green, and mainly with ecosystematic perspective, so more in ecology than biology. And arts, of course, and we also wanted to put it in a larger European platform. So we've got this Creative Europe's grant, and so for 3 years we could run this project in several places in Europe. But like it was anyway, it was very much focused on the two large exhibitions. One was exhibition on green in Riga in the National Arts Museum in the summer, in the pre-COVID summer of 2019, and it was followed right after that also in spring and winter in Bourges. And because this was all our collaborative efforts, but we as RIXC, also with Christine and Renewable Futures, have been doing for a longer time. And so we had this nice collaboration with Jens Halder, who is also studying topic of green, specifically in this interesting perspective. We wanted to implement this project and also to curate these exhibitions together.
So here it is. I will share my screen now, and I have some
all color, 350 pages, lots of images. Yeah, and so we started with these exhibitions, but then also 2 other larger exhibitions with EcoDate and Sensorium, shaping the chapters here.
As you asked me directly to elaborate a little bit on how the 3 years relate to a larger kind of project of study, I would like to just contextualize 3 years in relationship to 30 years, and also picking up Milos Peternak's very nice slide on Kairos towards or in relationship to Chronos, and that's about the really good moment, the opportunity to take, and there's a before, there's an after. And I think what we said with this project, and Raza was coming to me at some point, how can we contextualize greener studies within a new project and to build up something that is interdisciplinary. So just to get this, for me, for example, I started green studies 30 years ago with this article in 1991, and it was a German newspaper about actually describing an eco-arts project in my hometown where all trees in MDF were replacing MDF trees in real life, and they were all bud green. They were yellow, blue, and red, and naturally, as I wrote, not in green because a green tree wouldn't be art. And since 30 years, therefore, I have been collecting everything that has to do with green, and finally also interestingly collected all these images over time. This is from 1911 from Auguste Roby, a cartoon in France depicting the cooling of the earth, and it's a special issue about green aliens, of course, that definitely observe orange embers on the earth and asking, why do the earthlings set fires? And the answer, well, it's to slow down the cooling of the earth. And it is coming from a cartoon about the First World War seen from other planets. And I elaborated on this in a book that we edited recently about the aesthetics of necropolitics, where I tried to define green as the most anthropocentric of all colors. So there's a lot of knowledge coming together, and we tried also in this project to gain these fields of perception, physics, history of science, data sensing, physiology, perception, phenomenology, and so on, which I personally tried to focus on during my studies of years in Denmark. I said I came to Scandinavia basically because of biosemiotics, and therefore to investigate greenness from a biosemiotic angle was unfolding in conferences, just Ungreening Green, or the Green Conference of the SLSA, the Society for Literature, Science and the Arts. And then this was this Kairos moment together with Raza and Reitis and also Christine to say, how can we phrase that in a larger European context with our partners, Riga, Liepāja, Oslo, Helsinki, Bourges, Ljubljana, and Eindhoven. And out of that, we had this exhibition. I'm very thankful to work with you on this. Also, the whole RIXC team, a fantastic technical team. I think we had 20,000 visitors in the National Museum here nearby in just 6 weeks of exhibition. In this exhibition, Ungreen. Later on in the Ouvert, Phytophilia, Chlorophobia, and Situated Knowledges exhibition in Bourges in France. And it's all about also media archaeology, about variantology, to call it in terms of Zielinski's terms, and about situated knowledges, which is also hands-on practice that we put forward also within the experimentations that we did in Bourges. And you see also some art projects that have been coming up, such as Eva Maria's garden that she was growing here in Bourges, for example. So we have not a lot of time, and we have all this book in our hands in a very few minutes. So maybe it's just good to think of why did we include all the articles? What does it focus on? So of course, there's a first section about the two main exhibitions, which is Ungreen here in Riga and Ouvert, Phytophila, Chlorophobia, and Situated Knowledge is in Bourges. Then we have been flicking through some of the art projects. Agnes Meyer-Brandes has been mentioned, the garden project by Eva Maria Lopez, but also the chlorophyll transplantation to become plant by Chimera Rosa, for example, or also working with bats and with other than human agencies and perception modalities, such as in this project, The Eye of the Other, which is comparing echolocation and human senses. But I think diving a little bit into the chapters, the first chapter starts off with the materiality of pigments, for example. And we have been interested also in the very toxic history of arsenic-based pigments, which have been developed here in Scandinavia, by the way, by Carl Scheele, a Swedish researcher who developed in 1775 the first light-fast pigment that was able to resist light and to be able then to depict nature all over the places. And yesterday at dinner, I was talking to Liva and asked her, what was your favorite art project here in Riga in the exhibition in 2019? And she said, oh, this was Adam Brown's project. And Adam Brown's project, by the way, was exactly reenacting the recipe from 1775 to reenact this pigment, you know, live in a gallery setting. And it's funny that Scheele, as a researcher, not only was the one who discovered the element of oxygen, but then he was also the one who was producing the first light-fast arsenic-based pigment, with which artists went into the countryside to get poisoned by arsenic. And so the second chapter is from deconstructing greenness, but also deconstructing follow-up metaphors. With Christine, we have been able to have a keynote by Jeffrey Cohen, who was the author and the editor from Prismatic Ecology, Eco-Theory Beyond Green. And what he's doing in his article, in his chapter here, is a transcribed keynote, is that after the green monochrome metaphors, that doesn't pay attention to the prismatic gravity of the environmental complexity that we live in, to actually go and to deconstruct the rainbow as such. The rainbow as a weapon of weather, the rainbow also as a kind of biblical conservatism, as a kind of rainbow that is a sign that portends a secure future, but also forecloses and diminishes. So after diminishing the green metaphoricity, we also have already a diminishing of the rainbow metaphoricity of a supposedly LGBT sign. So maybe we can go into the chapters a little bit, and Rasa is very well positioned to connect this to the Ecodata exhibition and all the articles that we have in this section. So would you like to go through maybe some of the authors and the contents that we have presented?
Yeah, briefly about the chapter 2, it was a follow-up exhibition of the green. So next year in pandemics, so we still succeeded to do 2 more exhibitions of the summer, because COVID waves came very late. So the exhibitions we managed to set up, even as most of the visitors seen them, but then they were closed down a little bit earlier because of COVID. But so we were lucky with this, that we could stage really these exhibitions. And mainly, of course, it's local audience who's seen, but as long as it was working, so it went very well. Ecodata is important also for me, because it was a part of the project where I was involved together. It was led by Yvonne Volkart, and this was she was also specifically focusing and inviting us, 3 artists in her project to focus on technologies of ecological. So which kind of technologies and what can they do in terms, and what they can real in terms of like bringing up different ecological issues. So, and then also we work together with the scientists. So that's first article is by Yvonne. Then the other article is by scientists who also in parallel did the research about these volatile emissions in the forests and the climate. So they're it's a summarizing of the real scientific paper. So this has made in a more simple language. It's still very scientific, but it explains what actually means all this, all the other issues which we probably less known about the forest, and which are also a base of our Israelitis atmospheric forest VR artwork. And also then there are other articles like also from our team, like by Felipe Casablanco, who is Colombian, based now in Basel, and also a researcher in our new plants intelligence project in Basel. And he was also his film present. He was yesterday presenting his film also in the screening program. And then there are three more articles also which were participating in the conference. People who submitted the papers also to the conference.
So this is all about mediation and how far digital and optical media play a role when it comes to actually mediate biological, ecological data, right? So it's about cartography, about the cartographic gaze, about also visualizing drawings, damage in forest and the processes underlying it. And, the cartography and what this kind of new gaze through kind of machines and data implies, right? Maybe we can switch to the next chapter, post-sensorium.
Yes, because from the cartography, it was not in this, the second chapter was not only about cartography, it also was with one step into experiential learning. So what we can also experience by using more immersive technologies. And then already the third chapter and also the third exhibition we did as part of this Ungreen series was post-sensorium. It was also last year in the National Library of Riga here exhibited. So, and here we wanted really to focus about the importance of our own senses and of course extensions through the technologies. So because we wanted a little bit to challenge and contradict the usual notion, the mind of the people that's always has been put even in all this cyber fiction from the beginning of 20th century. The mind has been usually disconnected from the body and from the sensual experience. So we wanted to make an exhibition where we kind of try to remind that actually before we start to think, that's by Emmanuel Kocher, before we even wake up sometimes, we already feel, we smell or we feel the light. Yeah, so we wanted to focus on this, these notions, so how we perceive and how we make the continuous our experience through navigating the world, yeah, which is not only mind-based.
Rather, that is why also we have as a first chapter in this section, a text by Douglas Kahn, a well-known colleague of ours, and talking about solarception, a kind of photosensitive retinal ganglion cell-based perception. Do you want to argue why you actually find this a very interesting start to this chapter?
Yes, because I invited Douglas Kahn because I was thinking as a keynote for this conference, but I even didn't know this because he was always more in the sound and energy as an experience through the body, through technologies. But this particular, I think, is really quite new research by him also, that our eye also can be not only connected to brain and we see, but it's also can be a sensor of itself. And I think this notion seems quite strong, maybe not yet covered, but really like envisioning. So that's why we have this third chapter, which is a little bit more still to go and explore. So we put this as a first.
So we also have Raivo with us. So maybe, I don't know, you are the best position to actually describe it. Can you maybe in two sentences say what your article is about?
Actually, it's collaborative work with one of the so he had some research and he wrote about phenomena where what you can see, what was visible in interactive art exhibitions, where the work sort of advertises itself before you are approaching it, before you are starting to kind of interact with it, and what kind of phenomena it is, and how it is born. Is it kind of by force of curators that they want that the work is visible, is selling or advertising itself already before somebody will interact with it, or artists themselves are sort of conforming with it, trying to make a works which they can contact with the audience before the audience realizes that they can have a contact with the work.
There's also a nice notion of interpersivity that you introduced, and I think we're all very curious about what it means. So we'll find out by reading your last chapter of the book very soon. So Christy, do you want, maybe, I don't know how much time we have left, but what is your take on that book?
We don't have so much time left. I think my role is more to come from a collaborative project that we did together, which always raises a lot of questions and a lot of new discussions. And I find it very fruitful to have this kind of collection of articles, more or less connected to what we did. But it also points forward for me quite a lot to it's not only a documentation, but also a collection of questions to work on for the future. So it connects to futures also.
And about this book, just I would like to say, yeah, it's all in color, so it's nice that some printing things changing, but it's still not digital. It's offset, so we succeeded to print it. But I wanted to say that because of these all projects in the green, there was so much big focus on art and like exhibitions and artworks, so that there is also a lot of each chapter starts with the overview of the exhibition visually, but also especially green. So there is a whole catalog about what all artists are thinking about it, how they create their works. I mean, short annotations, yeah, well edited. Jens did it, yeah. So all artists are also there. So just for
it's
just
a catalog as well.
Yeah, it's a catalog also.
With footage and
because I think
images.
it's really good, because sometimes these even short annotations bring much more, like Christine was saying, some encouraging questions for next research and next projects.
Especially in the EU. I mean, I was part of the Summer Academy of the European Union together with artists and scientists recently. It's a Lago Maggiore in Ispra, and the topic of green and the new Green Deal, all the metaphoricity comes up, and how far there is a danger that when you boil it all down to a single metaphor, would you then, once the metaphor is worn out, to throw the baby with the bath, right? And to have well-intended climate policies by the EU that maybe because of a cheesy metaphor will not be working anymore. So we're discussing this also in connection with the European Commission, with the European Union. And you also said you had been approached in order to be advising EU projects in the future about the deconstruction of greenness.
Yeah, it's more like advising about because the EU and Creative Europe program, so they are interested in how to make more green Creative Europe's programs. So I think we will advise them.
Yeah, we have spent the time actually.
Okay, good.
Just to the future, because I mean, there's a before, there's a after, and also, I mean, what is nice about this EU project, it unfolds in very different other projects afterwards. So the next one to come is actually in Munich. We do a whole festival of unbroken green at Muffatal Munich, where basically the next step is also to screen large scale Rasa and Wright's atmospheric forest. This will be up at Muffatale, and the festival Sampling Color degrows as part of the Green Festival upcoming from 15th to 20th November. So I think it's not the last project, but there's many of them. So I think, yeah, we are done with our time, but we're really happy for all of you being here and supporting, and the RIXC team just facilitating this as a project leader. It's just quite an amazing experience to work with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone wants to know what it costs, how to get it, and all of this?
Yes.
It costs 15 euros today, all these RIXC new publications, and Oslo Fjord is up to you.
Oh, Oslo Fjord is...
you can demand, you can say.
Oh, it's actually for free. I have given it away for free.
Yes, so those who want to get free Oslo Fjord, you ask to Christine.
This will be downloadable also from the website?
Yeah, from January 1st.
Yeah. Okay.